Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hello.
We have Ashley Hicks. How's it going?
Good day, mate.
Good thing we didn't miss her 2 weeks in a row. And then we have Kyle Schrum. What's up, dude?
Hello, Governor.
Good God.
Yes.
Boot.
I didn't even understand the words that came out of your mouth.
He said, "Hello, Governor." It was British.
It was an attempt, that's for sure. All right, Kyle, with that, let's just go straight to you for updates.
Oh man, I shouldn't have done that. I don't know. Life is kind of boring right now. Couldn't really think of anything to update with.
I have the biggest update in the world last week to be like, you know what? Life's boring again.
So. Whatever. Yeah, my wife and kids go back to school this week. Since Anna's the teacher, she goes back earlier than everybody else. So starting on Thursday, I'll be by myself in the house again.
Oh,
for the
sad.
First time. I know.
Something to celebrate.
For the first time since COVID
March,
hit and nobody went back to school. So, yep.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So that's happening, but yeah, other than that, nothing.
When does school actually start for Hannah?
Next Wednesday, I believe, is when students first report.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but it's going to be kind of weird. Like it's going to be half in classroom, half virtual. Kind of like some of the students will be there part of the week and the other half will be there part of the week. Yeah. So it's going to be kind of weird. She's learning a lot of virtual platforms and stuff this week to be using.
Just means double the work. That's what I think about when I hear about that. I'm like, she's going to have to do that in class and online. Ugh.
That's exactly what it means. But anyway, so yeah, lots of busyness for her, but I'm just kind of watching her be busy. So
I have a very important question.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
And that is, Kyle, you have a different hat on. I've never seen you without the other very worn down 17-year-old whatever hat you have that's completely faded.
Can I take a guess? Because I don't actually know.
What?
I want to take a guess of why you got a new hat.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's see. It disintegrated.
Probably.
No, it didn't disintegrate, but that one, I've sweated so much in that one this summer that it's actually just kind of holding it now instead of like drying out. So I've got a different hat on today.
So it's just a salt cap, not a...
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that hat's not very old, actually. It's only like 2 or 3 years old. But
so if you work
it just
out
never goes in the washing machine.
If you just like take it off your head and put it in your mouth, is that like a salt tab? Is that like a salt lick?
It's exactly
salt
what
lick?
it
You
is.
can get some of the electrolytes back without having to pay
That's
for them.
recycling.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Joe,
Yeah.
what a
I ran
genius
out of
idea.
See?
Yeah.
Ideas.
I ran out of salt sticks, so just
Gross.
Using
using
my
it
hat.
around.
I have a salt hat.
Who knows? Maybe a good idea. Maybe not. I don't know. Well, I have to ask a doctor about that. Ashley, how are things?
Things are good. My minor one, I got a new office chair and it's super comfy. I like it. It's pleather.
A lot of twirling.
Yeah. But
We all remember my old office chair. It was quite
well, that's
comical.
what was happening to mine. Like that's why I always started on the bottom, so you guys would never see me drop.
It gets too embarrassing. I just can't.
So Scott and I finally pulled the trigger. We actually went to this really cool thrift store in Destin. There are a lot of neat things in thrift stores in places where people have money.
Yeah.
So we've kind of found some really cool things there. So, but big update is finally got my labs back after 28 days. #Air Force, but it's okay because it was free and I got my labs in finally. And it's actually the opposite of what my doctor and what I thought I was. We both thought I was estrogen dominant and basically had high levels of cortisol. I actually have lower, like super low levels of cortisol from a normal person. So I start out very like fatigued in the day because of it. And I also have low progesterone. So the opposite of what I thought I had. So we're doing some supplementation. And then they also found that I have Hashimoto's for those listening. And they found that one of my nodules actually grew. So I'm going to have to do a biopsy with my endocrinologist, which I'm not excited about because, you know, a needle sticking like in your neck, just not fun, not cool, but it's okay. It'll be all right. Just going to rule out cancer, not cancer, you know, benign, and then go from there and then treat that as well because my thyroid levels I'm within normal limits, but I'm very low within normal limits. So just my thyroid needs a little boost. So yeah, at least I have the answers, but now I have to wait for all the testing to be done in order to take certain supplementations. So
I did not think low cortisol was like a possibility for anyone ever. So that's good.
Yeah. The funny thing is they took me down like 75%. We all heard about my workouts and now they're like, actually, we need you to get your heart rate up because that's why you feel so good in the morning. They're like after, you know, because you're kind of raising your cortisol when you work out. So they're like, yeah, obviously I don't do high intensity every day because I follow Garage Gym Athlete programming, but they're like, yes, you can get your heart rate up above 75%. So
doctor's note to not slack it.
Yep.
So Meet Yourself Saturday is just go faster for you.
I'm so excited. I almost did Condition Me to Grave, but I did something else. But it was awesome just to like see my heart rate back up to like 170, 175. I was like, this is awesome. I know I'm weird.
That is it's a high heart rate.
I'm not Joe. Speaking of that, Joe, what are your updates for us today?
So my face has reached the point where if I have a bandana on, it's 50-50 if my phone recognizes me and opens. So that's my life right now.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's not great. But the biggest update is I posted this in our closed group, but Garmin has a bunch of awesome little activities and functions and data screens and watch faces and stuff you can download. Normally I spent like 20 minutes on this when I first got it. And it's like, all right, cool. I got a working watch and that's about it. But then I've discovered recently there's a whole bunch of new ones. And I found a fartlek one, which is pretty awesome. And the write-up of it is also really funny if you read it when I posted it. And the guy who made it actually did it because of more people running and COVID and social distancing and stuff. But how it works is you give it parameters of a minimum. So it tells you whether you're going to go fast or slow, and that's it. It just switches to fast or slow, and it gives you a 5-beat countdown. And then before you start, you give parameters of fast minimum and fast maximum. So whatever your interval is going to be. And then slow minimum and slow maximum. So you just minimum, maximum of both of what your intervals are going to be, and it randomly assigns it in no particular order and gives you a 5-second countdown. So believe it or not, I am pretty decent at pacing, you know, when I do runs. And this one, I could not pace at all because I had no idea what was coming. So I was just like, go fast. All right, I went fast. And then it was like, oh my goodness, when is this going to end? And it was just, my pace would taper down and it made it hard, but then it would finally end. And then like my rest could have been really slow or it could have been really, really long. But it was pretty cool. It worked really well and it was a good time. Kind of.
It is cool. I thought the point of a fartlek was supposed to be like the randomness of it, which there is randomness in there. You're putting in a lot of parameters, but there's also when people start to program for themselves, they like leave a lot of things out. They're like, yeah, I'm just going to deadlift and bench press every day. That sounds good. But I feel like the same thing can happen with a fartlek. If you are just going to self-regulate that, you'll probably only ever run like 75 meters hard. And then the rest of it will be like really light. So I think that's a pretty cool app to make sure you're not cherry picking your hard intervals when you're doing a fartlek.
Yeah, and you can do really long intervals too. So if you want to do it on a bike, to do longer of those, and then just like an easy stroll, it'd be kind of cool to mix in. And then lastly, I got a new data screen. So like whenever all of your data screens, you can put whatever info that you want. And the one of them that I did actually was a heart rate zone one, which is cool. So it shows your heart rate, your current heart rate level, and it has the 5 different zones and they're different colors. And the longer your workout goes, there's bars that fill up under those colors, and at the end of your workout, it'll show you like how many bars are under different zones and how long you spent in those zones while you're still in your activity in your app. So that's just kind of a cool thing. But yeah, new technology stuff that Garmin's and other things have that are fun to explore. You can add.
It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
All right. My update. So I'm officially in my new house.
Woo-hoo.
And it's been, let's see, they finished unloading the truck Saturday night. It's Tuesday. And I still don't have a fully functional garage gym. So I have a very minimally effective garage gym. I've been doing everything barbell and like Concept 2 bike for the most part, but I don't have everything set up. So that's my plan this week. But yeah, new garage, new house. Be setting all that stuff up over the next several weeks. The only thing I need to get installed, like I feel like it's a long time now. Chris Morgan was even giving me a hard time in one of the groups of pull-ups. I feel like I haven't done a proper pull-up in 6 weeks. And I feel like I'm going to be a little bit angry when I go back to do a pull-up. Because if I can't do a lot of pull-ups, I'm going to get kind of frustrated. So then I'll have to like
control. It's literally the only thing I do have.
Pull-ups? Yeah. I mean, I'll actually have one shortly after podcasting is over today. It's not hard to set up. I just need to go set it up. I've just been...
So you're going to do yesterday's workout today?
I might. I've actually sorely missed that workout. Like I programmed it and I'm like, I really want to do this one, but I can't. So yeah, but that's it. Yeah. I probably will do another video tour at some point once it's all said and done, but that'll be months down the road. Cause like I said, it takes a long time to perfect the gym to the level I had it before, and I'll get there eventually.
I know you got to get the sauna in there. There's so many things.
Sauna's going outside this time.
Oh,
he's not taking up space in the garage. So
all right.
That's it's actually why we got the barrel sauna, because most people put them outside. Barrel sauna's outside. I don't have a 3-car garage. I downsized to a 2-car garage, so no sauna. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think I'm gonna turn the video off. Kyle's faces, I don't know how to read them half the time. And I don't...
Something about your face. I'm just plant
something
one
about your face. Okay, let's get going in the study. So we're talking about beer and HIIT. So the actual study is called Influence of Daily Beer or Ethanol Consumption on Physical Fitness in Response to a High-Intensity Interval Training Program. The Beer HIIT Study. The actual name of it. They added a period and then the Beer HIIT Study. Let's see, Molina Hidalgo et al. 2020. So it came out this year, pretty recent. So they set out to investigate the possible influence of moderate alcohol consumption on cardio fitness, muscle strength, and power following a 10-week high-intensity interval training program. So the methods at healthy adults are assigned to one of 5 groups, with 4 of the groups participating in a HIIT program and the 5th group being a control. Subjects in the 4 training groups received beer or ethanol, which was the beer group, or ethanol group, or alcohol-free intake. Men ingested 330 milliliters of their beverage Monday through Friday at both lunch and dinner, while women consumed 330 milliliters only at dinner. This corresponded to moderate intakes of alcohol, 24 to 36 grams of ethanol for men, and 12 to 24 gram a day, 12 to 24 grams per day for women. Maximal oxygen uptake, VO2 max, maximal heart rate, total test duration, hand grip strength, and 4 types of vertical jump were assessed. And so the results, all HIIT groups improved performance and fitness. Moderate alcohol intake did not impair adaptations. That's a lot of it in a nutshell. Now, there's a lot more to talk about, but that's the study, how they did it, what they were kind of looking at. I do like that they were looking at a very small amount of alcohol, 2 drinks for men. I also like that those were spaced out in the day for men and not 2 at once. I think that would have been a big difference and something that should be noted in this study. But other than that, what do you guys think about this study, methods, results, anything?
When did they train? Do they only train once a week or
Twice?
Twice
a week, at least 48 hours between.
Okay.
And it was all body weight. There was no strength. So it was like TRX bands and it was all body weight movements, which was interesting. But again, I guess it's high intensity. So they were just like, okay, we're going to just use your body for this.
And untrained.
Yeah. And that's what I took away from it too, because they were talking about like that they had gotten better. The people who, so there was also a control group that never worked out. They only drank. Right? So, and they're like, oh, the control group didn't get
America.
Pretty much. And so it was like, well, of course the control group didn't get any better. But these people were untrained. They, did high intensity. So they got better. Not that the beer or the alcohol made them better. It's almost like, well, they weren't training in the first place. So, and then you put them through 10 weeks of training. I feel like they're going to improve somewhat. But I guess to note that the alcohol, I guess, didn't hinder them in the results. But for me, it's like, well, I know how I feel. If I train, typically, I will not drink alcohol. I think alcohol negates my training, and I've always done that. And so I also know how I feel, even if I have, my drink of choice is a margarita. If I have a margarita, the next day I will have a slight headache, even though like I can make the cleanest margarita you think about, like just a lime, lemon, orange, tequila, triple sec, a little bit of honey, and that's it. Like there's no sugary added anything. And I still feel not too great. And I don't know. To me, this study did not move my stance on how I would drink and work and train at the same time, if that makes sense. But that was my takeaway from this.
Curious about the daily intake. I know Jared, you said it was good that they spaced it out and how they did it like that, but I don't know of anybody that would have 1 drink at lunch and 1 drink at dinner. If they're going to have drink, it's going to be 2 or 3 at dinner kind of thing. Mm-hmm. They're pretty much going to be together.
No, you're right. It's not realistic. The reason I like it is because that's the healthier way to consume alcohol. If you're going to consume it, is to drink like a big, this was in Rob Wolf's book, Wired to Eat. And he's talking about if you're going to consume alcohol, try and do it as early as you possibly can in the day. He kind of has a joke in there. Like, I'm not talking about, drinking with breakfast or whatever, but if you do drink how most people drink, which is like right before you go to bed, it's like the worst way to drink alcohol is like 3 or 4 drinks and then go to sleep. It's like the worst thing you could do. So I liked it from a health standpoint because it drinks, but yeah, you're right. It's not realistic. This isn't what people do. They're not like, oh yeah, one beer at lunch and then 1 beer, 1 glass of wine at dinner. Maybe some people do that, but I don't. Typically, if you're drinking like that, you enjoy drinking and you're going to drink a lot more in the evening than that.
We are all about the day drinking, Liz and I. So we don't like it to affect our bedtime. We still keep our bedtimes on the weekend, but we still want to enjoy our drinks. So it's like, well, why not just start earlier? So we do.
Yeah, that's how you should do it. I mean, before you go, that's how I drink these days. If I drink, it's very rare that I do consume alcohol, but what example, if I'm like at my parents' house, they have a pool and the whole family's there, we're hanging out Saturday or Sunday, something like that, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I might have 1 beer and not go beyond that. But if you move that same situation to like 5, 6 p.m. or later, and I'm offered any sort of alcoholic beverage, I won't touch it. I'm like, nope, no, thank you. It's going to affect my sleep. It's going to screw me up. So, yeah.
So I think out of our group of coaches, I'm probably the one that drinks the most. I will completely admit it, and that's fine. I don't really care. I don't have kids, and I also haven't had a wife for most of this year, so I can pretty much do whatever I want.
You currently look
that's
like
why
you drink
we don't
the most.
drink.
Yeah. Look, when you have to survive on your own in the mountains, sometimes you need it a little bit to stay warm. Sometimes you need calories, whatever. Where was I going with that?
I don't know.
So when I do drink, so I know that when I will strategically drink still, but it's how I do it. So like I said before, I will day drink if I drink, and I still go to bed at my normal time. And I'll usually go to bed, and when I do, I'll have electrolytes and take some melatonin, because I think drinking suppresses the release of melatonin of sorts. And then the next day I fast for a long time, because that's
to punish yourself.
Well, and that's also how your body's getting rid of it. I mean, if you, I think it's because alcohol is the easiest thing for it to process, so it's going to get rid of it faster than anything else that you eat. And if you eat something else, then it's going to kind of divide and conquer and not get rid of the alcohol faster. That's just my theory and how I kind of do it. But I know that this whole thing of, it's not going to mess up your performance. I know exactly that it's going to affect me, and that the only time I drink is when I know that I'm not going to work out at all the next day, or not doing anything crazy strenuous that I want to perform it. And I definitely don't do strength, but I keep losing my train of thought.
Did you drink earlier today?
Oh, right. Just out of it.
So to your point on strength and conditioning, if you actually, the reason I like this study is because this is more how I would actually drink. I'd actually never consume two alcoholic drinks on the same day. I've kind of set a rule for myself that it's one is the max allowed if I'm going to drink anything. So it's cool that it's not going to affect me that much. But if you look at the actual charts and graphs, like, their conclusion was it's not a big deal. But there is a fluctuation. And if you look at the results of each independent category, the people who didn't drink, the people who drank water, the people who drank vodka, and all this stuff. And it's pretty interesting. You can dive into that. I don't want to pull out any conclusions about vodka being better than beer or anything like that. You guys can look at the study and try to come to those conclusions yourself. But it seemed like it had much less of an effect on cardiorespiratory markers and more of an effect on power and strength. If you are just looking not at the conclusion, not at any of the literature, just straight up look at the charts, and you'll see that there seems to be a bigger, like almost no change when you're looking at cardiorespiratory stuff, VO2 max related, but a bigger one when you're looking at power, those jumping tests, and strength. So that is something to keep in mind for your given fitness protocol on what you're trying to improve, whether or not you consume any at all. If you are more strength biased, maybe it's a good idea to keep your alcohol intake to none.
Yeah, I usually would always avoid strength and power stuff, but even though conditioning would be somewhat miserable after drinking or whatever, it's still doable and it's fine. But the untrained athlete, I think, is what I wanted to get after, is because although after alcohol, the untrained people did progress, but we've seen that you can pretty much give untrained people anything and they'll progress no matter what. The non-alcohol group had better gains and better progress than the others. And how I kind of like to think of it, or my metaphor that popped into my mind, is like, think about walking in the airport and then drinking alcohol. It's like you just started walking on a moving sidewalk headed directly at you. You're kind of not going anywhere, or maybe just not very far, but you're still moving. Versus if you're not drinking, then you're still just walking like normal. Does that make sense?
I think so.
I hope so.
I'm letting it soak in. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah.
I haven't been to an airport in so long. Freaking COVID.
But you're from I don't get it. I haven't been to an airport. I can't really comprehend.
All right. Any other comments on the study? Kyle, you got anything?
No, I don't really have much to. I will say I'm probably the only person on the team that doesn't drink ever at all. It's just never. That's just never something that I've ever gotten into. So I can't really make any personal recommendations, based on how it affects me or anything. I don't know how it affects me because I'm never drinking of it. But I would say just based on this study, I think it got passed around social media. A lot of people were like, oh yeah, we can drink and it doesn't mess with our gains and stuff. And it's like, you need to dig into the study a little bit more than that, because that's not exactly what it's talking about. But I would say if you're going to be consuming alcohol while training or along with your training, I don't really see anything wrong with it if it doesn't bother you. You know what I mean? Make an assessment for yourself. But also at the same time, because I feel like we may have some people who have always you know, paired drinking or been drinking and also training. And they're like, well, I can keep doing it because it doesn't affect me. Well, maybe test it, you know, maybe go for a week or two without drinking anything and see what it, you know, what it does for your training. And so kind of be open to maybe testing it to see if it's affecting you in ways that you're not aware of. Because, you know, we've covered alcohol on the podcast before and really talked about, especially, and we've talked about, you know, today, you know, kind of how it affects your sleep and things like that as well. And so it could be affecting you in ways that you're not aware of. So I guess I would just say make a decision for yourself and really actually test it to see what it's actually doing to you. And if it's not doing anything to you, don't worry about it. It's all good.
Yeah, and I think the big takeaway is, putting a hard limit on how much you drink. Because if you do run across this study and you're like, as Kyle said, oh, great, you know, new science says we can drink. It's like, just assess how you actually drink. Do you have 2 drinks per day and split them apart by 6 to 8 hours? Or do you maybe have a large glass of wine, maybe 2, a couple beers at night? That's very different than this study. So I pulled up another study that looked at just bumping up a little bit, 3 drinks up to 5 drinks per day and what that can do. So this research demonstrated that chronic alcohol consumption, which is only 3 to 5 drinks per day, can negatively impact muscle protein synthesis, testosterone, and performance. So this is, if you guys want to actually look it up, it's called The Effects of Alcohol Consumption on Recovery Following Resistance Exercise, and it's a systematic review. So systematic review is a study of studies. So they're looking at all other studies that they could find on athletic performance and alcohol. Here's the conclusion. It's kind of long. I'm going to read the entire thing. Alcohol consumption following resistance exercise doesn't seem to be modulating factor for creatine kinase, heart rate, lactate, blood glucose, sexual hormone binding globulin, leukocytes, or cytokines, C-reactive protein, and calcium. Force, power, muscular endurance, soreness, and rate of perceived exertion are also unmodified following alcohol consumption during recovery. So far, not a big deal, right? Cortisol levels seem to be increased, while testosterone, plasma amino acids, and rate of muscle protein synthesis decreased. So it's jacking with your hormones primarily. All those other things, if you guys go look at those, creatine kinase, C-reactive protein has to do with inflammation, like all blood glucose, you know, you guys know what some of these things are. But a lot of those we don't care about as much as we would like something like protein, a muscle protein synthesis, that being decreased in your training, that's a huge deal. Your testosterone being decreased, huge deal. Having 3 or 4 drinks, and we haven't even got into the effects of sleep, having 3 or 4 drinks and then effing with your sleep, you know, night after night, huge freaking deal on all of these things going up to, because if we're just looking at sleep now, and you're going to be messing with your C-reactive protein, you're going to be messing with your blood glucose, your creatine kinase, your heart rate variability. So this is a very complicated topic in which you need to be very careful of what your takeaway is from it. So my official recommendation would be the same thing that I allow myself to do. You can have 1 alcoholic drink and it needs to be somewhere in the middle of the day. Beyond that, do whatever the hell you want, because I don't actually care if you have 1 or 2 drinks at nighttime, but I'm talking about being optimal, right? A lot of people, I've never been a huge drinker going, you know, to college when I didn't care about this stuff almost at all. I've just never been okay with a hangover, like almost ever. So I've never been a big drinker because of that reason. Like it ruins an entire day of your life the next day, you know? And so and when I was in college, it took a lot of alcohol to have a hangover that would ruin my next day. And now I guess I was an adult there, an older adult, it seriously takes like 2 drinks and I have an entire day that's not ruined, but like not optimal, far from what I'd like to be at. So yeah, I don't, not a huge fan of alcohol for a lot of reasons. So be careful on your takeaway, and pay attention to what was actually in the study if you are going to use it to, drink alcohol. Use it as an excuse to drink alcohol. All right, you guys want to get into the topic?
Yeah.
So I actually picked this topic and I quoted it directly how she wrote it. So how did we train in our past before Garage Gym Athlete and how we eventually came to our senses? with I think it was a wink face.
Yes,
That would be
winky
correct.
face.
Winky
Yeah.
face.
Okay, so I could go on for about 2 or 3 minutes, short for me, on this topic. No, so I'd love to hear how everyone trained. I feel like I have a general understanding of everybody, and I'll kind of end with what I've done and why. It's almost like why Garage Gym Athlete is the way that it is. And but whoever wants to go first, I'd love to hear how you got here and what you were doing.
All right, I'll go first. I was going to let Ashley go first, but no, I'm going to go first. Actually, when I was an athlete here, just an athlete, I did, an episode on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast and kind of talked about this a little bit too. That was before I was a coach and on the coaching team. But I grew up the fat kid. Exercise was not really my favorite thing ever. And one of the last things in my life I ever thought that I would be was a fitness coach. So, yeah, I did not really start exercising or working out in any kind of structured capacity until high school football. So my freshman year of high school. We did some workouts in middle school football, but we weren't in the weight room very much in middle school. So high school football was really my first introduction to structured programming, structured training. I say structured with air quotes. But even then I did like the bare minimum. Like it was still like, okay, I'm going to do exactly what the workout is for today. And then I'm going to go home. Like I'm not going to do anything extra at home. I'm not going to go, do anything that I'm not required to do. So that was just kind of my mindset. So I got through high school, went to college and spent a few years not doing anything. I would go with some of my buddies to the gym every now and then sporadically and just do something. But I was just never really into it. Even with a bunch of my college buddies, doing CrossFit with Rich back when Rich was winning the CrossFit games every year. Cause I went to college at Tennessee Tech in Cookeville. A bunch of my buddies got into that. I wasn't into it. Wasn't my thing. So even after college, moving to Chattanooga and starting work, still wasn't really my thing. Never really got into it until my son was born in 2016. And so in 2016, I had gotten up to like 235. That's the heaviest I'd ever been. Still wasn't really exercising and realized I needed to do something different. So started doing program hopping, like free stuff online. I had a buddy of mine who lived like a mile away from me, who had a gym at his house that I could use for free, but the free stuff just wasn't doing it for me because I didn't have anything pushing me. And so then I came to my senses when I read the article, 7 Ways to Train Alone and Actually Push Yourself. And I found it on Facebook and read that article, and I was like, it's time for me to start investing something in actually getting my life together. So signed up for programming and haven't looked back. That's my whole history in it. And still kind of track hop even today. I'm missing the strength track pretty hard right now.
It's the human element right there.
Yep, that's it.
Joe, you want to go?
I guess so. So growing up, I was always a multi-sport athlete through high school and all that stuff, but I was always that was the definition of scrawny. I never lifted a weight. I just ran a lot. I was just fast, and that's about it. Slightly after high school, or not long after high school, I joined the military. Went through that. Still didn't exactly help me get stronger. And after my first year in the military, I was doing the required 3 PT sessions a week, and then I played flag football and soccer whenever they were in season on base. And I just want to say this, that I was doing more than the recommended PT for the Air Force, eating the Air Force approved meals at their at the chow hall, and I still gained like 10 or 15 pounds as a 19-year-old, which shouldn't happen.
But Pop-Tarts are like green and bacon is red in the DFAC. So let's just say that right there.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of fake stuff. And then after a year active duty, after I gained that weight, a bunch of dudes, bunch of bros came back from deployment, and they were all completely jacked and had been working out for 6 months. That's all you do when you deploy. And somebody made the comment that I was getting man boobs, and then I was like, oh, well, that's fun. And then one of the guys was just like, he's just like basically dragged me to the gym with them when they worked out during lunch, and I started lifting weights. And then did the whole bro lifting weights for 2 or 3 years. Deployed a second time. So I deployed once doing all that, then I deployed a second time. And while I was there, I was getting tired of the whole bodybuilding stuff. And then there was like the main gym, which was always packed with bros. And then like right outside the main gym, there was a little soft tent area, or like a soft shell tent that was completely enclosed, and it was a CrossFit tent. Absolutely nobody was in there. So it was all just bumpers. It was racks. There was no mirror. There was no dumbbells.
You started CrossFit just because you didn't want to be around people. I love it.
I was just like, well, those bros and all that stuff is just way too packed. I'm going to go in here. And I knew another guy that was like really into CrossFit. I was like, well, I'll start looking up things. And so I basically self-taught myself CrossFit workouts and made my own for 6 months. And I got really good in shape, and I got a lot stronger, and it was great. And then once I got back from deployment, I joined up with the CrossFit gym, did that for a while, for several years. Then I was coaching CrossFit, and while I was coaching CrossFit, I found End of 3 for the very first Accelerate cycle after I'd already been doing 1-minute barbell stuff. And I was doing that while I was still coaching CrossFit. And I would always get crap for people like, hey, why aren't you doing today's workout? I got my own thing I'm doing. Don't worry about me. And I would just go off to the side and do my own thing. And then that's that. Stopped going there.
And here we are.
It took like 2 or 3 years of actually working for End of 3 Fitness to actually get my own gym. Other than that, I was going to military gyms and even like CrossFit gyms, just going off to the side and have my own little nook. And now I don't have a gym again.
Aww.
Always bringing it back down, man. Come on.
You know?
Just being real.
All of that, and now all he has is a pergola.
Oh, I don't even have that. That's my brother's.
Lie.
Yeah, you got to keep up to date, Kyle. He's not there anymore.
Jeez.
I'm kind of like Joe. I grew up in soccer, so I ran a ton. As a child, I was probably in first or second grade when I started soccer, and then from then on, I played all the way even through college intramurals and whatnot. So running was always a thing that we did for conditioning, and we did some drills and whatnot. So when I got old enough to like work out on my own, which was basically college for me, all I did was I did the elliptical, I did the Stairmaster, I did all the girly things that everybody thinks females do, and I definitely did them. And I would turn on like a TV show on the TV and just go for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then that would be it. I maybe would do some abs or something, but I had no idea how to lift, and to be honest, I was pretty afraid of lifting. And then I actually met my husband, and he was like, I'm going to teach you how to lift. But at the time, he was doing bodybuilding things, and I hated every second of that. And I was like, nope, I don't like this. And then, of course, what you said, Joe, lots of bros. There was a ton of bros in the tech gym. There was like a bro room off to the side behind the basketball court. Jared, you probably remember. And I hated going in that room because there was just nothing but like mirrors and like dudes that wore cut off t-shirts. And I was like, no, I don't belong here. This is not where I belong. And then after college, my husband went to pilot training at Shepherd. We knew the moons there as well. And I think Scott worked out with you a few times, but I was still doing my own thing. I was doing like Zumba and Pilates and taking all these workout classes. And I was continuing to not lose weight. And I actually gained a little bit our first year of marriage. And I was actually running on the treadmill when a girl came up to me and she was like, hey, I'm going to the CrossFit class. Do you want to go? And I was like, what's CrossFit? And she was like, oh, you'll love it. You're a people person. You'll love it. And she was right.
Did you know this girl?
Do what?
Did you know this girl?
Yeah, no, it wasn't just like a random chick.
Like,
it was
wow, this is just Cult 101. Here, come drink this.
We're having a gathering later.
Yeah, bring your robe.
Yeah, I guess I should have said that. No, I knew her. Most of the females that were in the gym were the spouses, right? And a lot of the spouses knew each other because all of our husbands were going into pilot training. So she came up to me and she was like, yeah, you'll love it. And she was right. And I did it for the opposite reason, Joe. I did it for the community. Like I loved the community aspect. I love all the people aspect. And then I just wasn't getting stronger, and I felt like I should. And it wasn't even about strength. It was just I felt like I was plateauing. Like I just couldn't. There was not much more that I could do, and I was kind of getting burnt out. And it was right around the time we were moving to England, and so we had actually stopped to see. We did this long cross country just to say bye to family, and we stopped and we saw the moons because my dad lives in Dallas, and we had lunch and. Jared was just talking about his training and stuff and said he was running a shred promotion. And I just remember just thinking about it. Like it never left me. I was like, man, I just want to check it out and want to see what Jared's doing. And so I remember I contacted Jared and Jared was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yep, here I am. I'm all in. I'm no more CrossFit. Let's do this. And so, cause I mean, I drank the CrossFit Kool-Aid like it was going out of style. And, and then I did. And exactly what you said, Joe, I worked out in a base gym with Garage Gym Athlete programming because I didn't have my own garage, and our garage was kind of small in England. And then it was right around when I had Connor. So I was about 2 years in that I realized like I need my own setup. And so we made room in the garage, and it was way easier for me than to have to commute to the gym every time. But yeah, and that's pretty much it. And I haven't looked back since, and still growing within this programming, which is really cool because I think it's ever evolving. And that's the coolest part is I feel like the more that Jared and the coaches, all of us learn, the more that the programming continues to grow and learn with it too. So it's kind of cool.
Awesome. So I was just born working out.
You came out with a barbell?
I'm here now.
I don't know Fisher Price barbells.
So I've told this story, I don't know, on a lot of other podcasts. I've probably told it here, but essentially I was a skinny kid. My uncle was like, hey, you're too skinny, lift a weight. I was like, what do I do? He sent me a program. That's how everything got started. But shortly after that, I think is a real defining moment for me that I haven't told this story as much is I wanted to run track. I played football, but I was never like a serious athlete. Like I didn't take it seriously. There's all my friends were playing football, starting all the way back. And I mean, as early as you can start playing football, I played football, and then growing up and I played football, but then track, I don't know. I was kind of naturally fast. And so I wanted to see if I could actually get good at track, but again, only relying on being naturally fast, not doing anything else. And so I was right at the cusp because all these other people were serious. And I was like, oh, okay, they're real runners. And so I wanted to run the 400. And so the coach was like, it was between me and this other guy. And he's like, all right. He's like, I don't know. I can only take one of you for this 400 meter spot. And so you guys are going to race against each other right here, right now. And whoever wins gets a slot. And it was a super close race, and he beat me. And I was like, how do you get faster? Like, this is not something, when I got this bodybuilding program from my uncle, I was like, does this make you faster? I don't know how to run faster because there's nothing about running faster or running at all in this bodybuilding program that I'm doing. Anyway, I often think about this. If I had won that race, I think it would have been really bad for me as a human being forever. That's why I say it's a really, really defining moment, because what that did was, one, I don't like losing. I lost. And ever since that, it kind of changed my perception on everything. I was like, okay, I'm going to start studying how all this stuff works. I started studying nutrition. I started studying training. I started diving into these things at a really deep level, even going back to like 15, 16 years old. Like I have old notebooks of like jotting all this stuff down. And so anyway, I put that all into track. The end of that story is I did get faster and took that guy's slot and ran track and all this stuff. But my point to this is I started bodybuilding with a little bit of conditioning. And then that conditioning became a little bit more because I wanted to be a track athlete. And then I did more bodybuilding with a much heavier aerobic conditioning slant going into college because I wanted to be the best in ROTC. I want to have the best scores for everything, increase my chances of becoming a pilot, all that other stuff. So I did bodybuilding plus aerobic conditioning. And if you have been into bodybuilding at all, I was on significant bodybuilding protocols. I think some people just are like, they're like, oh yeah, I did that back and buys. I get it. I'm like, no, like I would gain like 30 pounds in like 3 months intentionally. And I would also know how to lose it. Like I was a great manipulator of my body weight and muscle size. And, but I just didn't, what came with that was, we've talked about this before, was the mental side of bodybuilding, which I have since completely been released of. And I'm so thankful for, but like caring how big my arms are or my quad size, or if I'm bigger than this dude, like that was damning to my mental state. And this strength and conditioning protocol has like freed me from that. Like, I don't care at all how big my arms are or any, like all I care about some performance metrics, and not even in comparison to anyone else, only comparison to myself. So really glad I found conditioning, strength and conditioning in general. But the idea in bodybuilding is there's always this conditioning element, always. It's typically fasted cardio because that's how you lose fat. So when, Ashley and Joe talked about getting into CrossFit, I got into CrossFit, but CrossFit was only ever my conditioning. Like it was never what I did. I never ever was like, what's the Metcon for today? Because that's what I'm doing. It was always, here's the strength training I'm doing, whether bodybuilding style or powerlifting based. And then my conditioning, I have simply tried to replace that element with shorter CrossFit workouts. And so that was how I got into CrossFit. I've never been a part of a CrossFit gym or community like Joe, super self-taught. But I did get into CrossFit because I just thought I was like, this looks challenging. I want to try it out. It's hard. And so I got into it that way. But it was only ever that conditioning piece instead of being on the elliptical or doing this low intensity stuff that bodybuilders like to do. But then I kind of moved on. The reason I really liked CrossFit because Glassman kept touting all of this like data-driven, science-backed stuff that all ended up being a load of crap. Like Glassman never came out with any of that stuff. He would just talk about it at seminars. He'd be like, oh yeah, we have all this data on this, and we have any of you ever seen any of that data from CrossFit Incorporated? Because I sure haven't. But it got me obsessed with the idea of having science-backed, data-driven training. And so that's kind of what led us here. So going all the way back to losing my first track race, to Glassman introducing, yeah, we are the data-driven, science-backed thing. It's like, no, you're not. You're just the high-intensity model. Like that's all you are. And so that's why I heavily strayed away from CrossFit, just because I realized that it's not actually what I was looking for. It was kind of a facade that I had been sold on. But what's interesting is this entire time, what have I been doing? Concurrent training. Almost since day one, I've been doing concurrent training, which I think is what I do now. It's what we all do right now. And the reason I program the way that I do, and I garage gym athlete is here, is I want to know all the different muscle contractions are being hit. I want to train as many different strength methods as I can. I want to hit all the different energy systems. I want to balance the 3 human planes of movement. And I want to reduce injury and just be as optimal as possible for as long as I can. And so that's why I do the programming that I write, because I don't think anybody else is doing it, And so coming to my senses is like, I realize most coaches out there think that programming doesn't matter that much. And I think those coaches haven't seen enough. They haven't had enough volume. Like we've had more volume than, arguably a lot of fitness companies in the entire world. Like we're probably at the top as far as just a volume-based component, how many athletes we've actually touched, worked with, or have data points on. And we actually have the data points, and we back it by science and looking at research. And there aren't a lot of other people doing this because I think they just don't care, and it's a lot of work, and it's hard to do, so they don't do it. And I don't think I could follow anybody else's program at this point, because even if I didn't audit it and look at it, which happens when you show me a program, but I would just be like, I would worry too much about what they're not thinking about, and not want to and some people think that's not a big deal. And I don't think it's a big deal for your next 12 weeks or your next year. It's a big deal for your next decade. or 15 years or 20 years of what you want to be interested in, because we all found out what happens to athletes when they do high intensity CrossFit workouts every single day. It's not good. It's not a good end result after a decade or 2 decades. And it has nothing to do with it being injury causing. You have to be like Ashley and somehow have low cortisol, like as like a genetic trait, to be able to probably hit high intensity every day and it be okay. But most humans out there aren't going to have that. So anyway, that's kind of been my journey, from the start to now. It's pretty much always been concurrent training. And then I just wanted to get way more serious, and here we are.
Oh, the journey.
Speaking of the journey, the workout, Under Pressure.
Under pressure.
I got it if you want. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Ding, 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 ding.
So, oh my goodness. Should have booted her from the beginning. Just kidding. So Under Pressure. This is very simple, and I think in the past we've paired it with other things in Meters on Saturdays, but you're going to complete 4 times 200 kipping pull-ups or 100 strict pull-ups. And there is a 35-minute time cap. But every time you drop from the bar, when you drop from the bar, you're going to do 100 double unders or 200 single unders. And for this, 200 kipping pull-ups is the workout, but if you can't do a bunch of strict pull-ups, I'm going to go ahead and say at least 50 to 70 strict pull-ups, not in a row, but like in a day.
A workout, yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing 200 kipping pull-ups. You should be scaling down to whatever your strict pull-up is and do 100 hard strict pull-ups, whatever it is.
Did you mention the time cap?
35.
He did.
Yeah. Okay. And what's funny is my exact recommendation is basically I might rewrite this workout to not have kipping pull-ups, because you should be able to, there should be some sort of like, this may have been the only thing CrossFit has actually introduced to the world. Like otherwise, they didn't create exercises. They just put them together in a model to make high intensity. But the kipping pull-up, I don't think I've seen anywhere about anything. Like people talk about it being a part of gymnastics, but I don't think they train it. I think it's just like a way to get up to the bar if you aren't strong enough to do it. So anyway, kipping pull-ups, not great for you, especially if you're not strong enough to do them. If you are strong enough to do them, then you're fine. But I really feel like there should be like a 15, 20 strict pull-up for males, like test that you have to take before you're allowed to start doing kipping pull-ups, and not doing kipping pull-ups due to some sort of lack of strength, which is why a lot of people are doing kipping pull-ups. If you are strong enough to do them, you probably won't have any issue. But yeah, just do them strict. 99% of everyone listening to this, just do the 100 strict pull-ups version. That's my advice. Anybody else?
I would do, and if you can't do them strict, I would do inverted. What was I not supposed to go? Was Kyle supposed to go?
No. It's okay. Go ahead.
I would do the inverted body rows, or ring rows. That's probably what I would do, because I know personally I can't do 100 strict pull-ups. I mean, I probably got like maybe 10.
It's a lot of double unders.
Yeah, it's going to be a ton. I remember the last time I did, I've only done this workout once. My calves were super sore the next couple days. So just be prepared, people.
And strict pull-ups, they aren't like like with the barbell, you can like muster up that little 2 to 3% extra to like get the bar up if you need to. That doesn't really happen with me, at least, and pull-ups. So like I can be on 98 and be like, okay, it's just 2 more. And then I literally can't do them. So I have to drop with 2 reps left and do 100 double unders and then do my last 2 pull-ups. But yeah, it's a fun one. It can be really frustrating. It's like, if I could combine this with like zone 2 Murph, it would be like the most mentally frustrating workout, you could put together. Well, that's a good idea. All right, Kyle, you have any tips before we get out of here, man?
No tips from me. I've never done this one, so I don't.
You don't feel right giving advice?
Yeah, I don't have advice to give on that one.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week. If you haven't already, make sure you leave us a review. 5-star review, positive comment really helps out. And if you are interested in all of that training that I was talking about earlier and you're not a part of it for some reason, it's a huge problem. You can fix that problem by going to garagegymathlete.com, signing up for a 14-day free trial, and see what it's like when someone actually tries to program and they don't just throw together old football programs and random junk they found on the internet. So if you want to see what that looks like, go ahead and sign up for a free trial. We'll show you. For everyone who's enjoying that and you're awesome, you're part of the awesome community. Thank you so much for being a part of that. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.